How you guys doing today? All right, so we're gonna have some fun today. My name is Neil Patel. We're gonna be talking about the marketing challenge, AI's impact on modern marketing. And we're seeing a lot of changes that are happening right now. And these changes are impacting everyone in this room, plus all the companies you guys work with. So a little about me, I'm the co-founder of NP Digital, have a lot of awards, work with a lot of different brands all over the world. The reason I have these two slides is I don't think I'm that great. I really do think I have a lot more to learn, but I see a lot of data. And that data, some of it I'll share with you guys today, that data from across the globe helps us truly understand what's happening in the marketing landscape. Now, first off, when we're thinking about AI, a lot of people have a lot of conceptions on what's happening with marketing and what's not and what's going to change. And I want to give you guys a quick introduction so that way we can be all on the same page. But before I do that, I have a simple question for you, technically two. You guys all awake in the morning? Raise your hand if you are. All right, that means we have people raising their hand, which will give you idea on my next question. And the reason I asked the first one is I just want to make sure people raise their hand so you guys can all look around the room and see what other people are experiencing when I ask this. Okay, answer it truthfully. And there's no wrong answer. And I'll share with you what I'm seeing all around the world. How many of you guys are using AI within your company? Pretty much almost everyone. And how many of you are seeing an increase in ROI, like revenue? You're seeing more revenue because of AI. Raise your hand. Look around the room. Few people raising their hands, maybe 15, 20%. But what we find is the majority of corporations are using AI, but they're not seeing a ROI yet. The technology is there. They're just doing some of the wrong stuff. And hopefully today, we can get everyone on the same page, generating a ROI from AI. And the people who are generating ROI already, hopefully we can get them to even generate more. So first off, why does AI matter more than ever? Well, it helps you scale faster, right? There's a lot of stats from all over the world. And 62% of marketers report a strong understanding of generative AI. And what they're finding is when they understand AI and they're implementing it, they're seeing efficiencies within their business. And it's supposed to be a massive market, well into the trillions. I believe 15 plus trillion in revenue over the next decade. That's a lot of revenue. You gotta make sure that you're leveraging this technology, you're using it within your organizations, you're building on it, because if you do this, you're gonna be better off. And over 90% of marketers are aware of AI's business impact. You no longer have to convince businesses, right? But when you look at the state of AI in marketing, 78% of organizations now use AI in at least one business function. That's up from 55% a year ago, according to McKinsey. And 71% report regular use of generative AI in marketing, sales, and content creation. We're seeing people adopt this faster than any other technology we've ever seen being adopted before. It's also really affordable for most people. You can use some of these things for free. If someone's eating the cost, ChatGPT, I think, is burning over $1 billion a month or something like that. I could be off on a number, but it's quite a bit of money. And when you look at AI across the funnel, it's no longer, hey, you can just use it for content creation. Because when ChatGPT first came out, there was an application called Jasper. Do you guys remember Jasper? And that was before ChatGPT, but OpenAI was out. And because OpenAI came out before ChatGPT, which everyone here knows. But Jasper was using OpenAI's technology, and people were like, wow, we can have AI just create content for us. They scaled to a unicorn really fast. And people are like, wow, you can use AI to create text-based content. Now, it's kind of funny because you can use AI for so much more than that. And if you look at where it's actually being adopted in an organization, content generation, which was the first thing that people really saw in marketing, has the most adoption. And then if you start going down, Email optimization, still using it, but a little bit less. SEO and keyword research, using it, but a little bit less. You go all the way down to visual and creative. You guys have seen the visual and creative apps out there. People are like, this is amazing. Believe it or not that many companies use it, right? Not that many companies use AI for personalization or chatbots or data and analytics. And some of those aspects like personalization and data and analytics is where the real value is, but it's not the sexy stuff, and people don't know how to use AI for a lot of this stuff when it would actually be very beneficial. A great example of this is everyone spends money, or majority of corporations spend money on ads, like Google ads, Facebook ads. Just look at the revenue numbers. I think Google does over 300-ish billion a year from ads. I think Meta's around 200-ish billion. When you just look at those two combined, that's so much money. You know how much wastage there is? Data and analytics and having AI analyze this data would help. Everyone says they log into their analytics, but very few people actually make changes based on what they see in their analytics, right? And AI can bring a lot of awareness. That's actually a big issue in corporations. They don't know what to focus on. And even with consumers using and interacting with websites, they don't even always know what features to focus on. They don't know what areas of a website to focus on or where to get what they're looking for. And 51% of consumers say they want AI to help them find products faster. Who wouldn't? We're seeing it these days where people are doing a lot of research through Google AI mode and ChatGPT before they're actually going off to a website. When a website has a lot of products, a great example of this is Amazon. I bet you Amazon search is going to change over time. Instead of you typing in winter jacket, a lot of us are flying here to Denver and don't live here. You'll search on Amazon, I'm looking for a jacket that'll keep me warm, but not too warm because the weather goes from 40 degrees all the way to 70. What's the best jacket that would work on a day that the weather changes so drastically? I was looking at the weather when I was flying in. I think it was like 50 to 70, right? Wouldn't it be nice if you could just type that in to Amazon and it actually shows you the jackets that would be the most suitable? That's what's going to happen. You don't want to type in winter jacket and be like, too thick, too skinny, not going to keep me warm, weighs too much, I'm going to have to take this off during TSA pre, right? You want the one that's just right. And that's what it's going to do. AI is going to assist to help deliver the experience of consumers better and help companies provide solutions to these quote unquote, platforms out there. And personalization proves that it really creates a better experience, right? People want it, the data shows. And if you look at how people are satisfied and where they're not, I have a graph of different things from easy returns, transparent reviews. People are looking for different things. There's a lot of similarities and overlapping elements that people are looking for. And you can optimize for those first because it's not hard to optimize for those. But personalization is no longer an option. It really is a new baseline. It's like when I go to Amazon, for a while, they started showing me kids' toys. And a lot of kids' toys. I don't buy kids' toys. I have no clue why they would start showing me kids' toys. Keep in mind I have 2 kids. My wife typically buys them the stuff, or if my kids want toys, they got to use their own money that they earn from chores and working and all that kind of stuff. So one day, I'm like, why the heck is Amazon doing this? This is terrible personalization. And we work with them. So I was just like, this just doesn't make sense. Little did we know, my wife and I eventually figured out that our kids are ordering all these toys from Alexa. And they're getting shipped to our house. I'm not talking about like $100 a month worth of toys and products. I'm talking about thousands a month in expenses. like some months $4,000 or $5,000. And my wife would tell me, because I'm going on all these trips, because I work so much, like from here I go back home to see my kids for a day, and then I fly out to Sydney. I'm there. From there I fly out to Dallas. From there I fly back to see my kids for a few days, and then I'm off on the road again, right? So I fly quite a bit. So my wife is telling me, hey, you need to stop spoiling our kids. I'm a good husband. I've learned happy wife, happy life. I don't argue with my wife. I say, all right, honey, I'm sorry. I'll spoil them less. And I'm like, oh, what the heck is she talking about? You know? And then the reason we learned that our kids were ordering so much stuff from Amazon is my wife one day gives me a hug. And she's like, you're so thoughtful. I really appreciate you. And I'm like, oh, thank you. You're welcome. I had no idea what I did. But, you know, you take credit wherever you can get it. And, you know, like 30 minutes later, she's like, I'm just so happy you knew I needed more Post-its and you ordered me more Post-its. So then, instead of saying I didn't order Post-its, I go look on Amazon because we order most things from there. And I'm like, she's right. I ordered Post-its. And then to go down, and I'm like, whoa, I've been ordering all this stuff. And then I talked to my wife, and I'm like, hey, if you told me you needed Post-its or I saw they were running low, of course I would order you more. But I didn't order you more Post-its. And when you mentioned this, I had to look because I don't know if our account's hacked and stuff like that. And there's all these things in here that I didn't order. And then we found out our kids were like, yeah, I got it for you, Mommy. And they're like, oh, thanks. And not only did they buy all these toys and Post-its, but they started subscribing to all these different services through Amazon as well. And the point I'm getting at is they personalize. They personalize to the person spending money, not the one who's not spending any money, because I'm traveling. I don't really order anything from Amazon other than, oh, I need, I don't even know what I ordered from Amazon last. Like, I need a new toothbrush, you know, but like, I personally don't buy much at all on a monthly basis. Socks, underwear, you know, on an annual basis. But now my mother-in-law gives that to me as a gift, so I save money. But the point I'm getting at is personalization is really where it's at. You know, and when you think about personalization, if you can help companies or you guys help create experiences that are personalized, we're seeing drastic increases in sales, right? If you can't personalize, you're not going to do as well. And that is the future, because that's what's really driving conversions in real time. It's delivering the right offer at the exact moment. But when you look at conversions, people believe the funnel is linear. It is no longer linear. It's really messy. How many of you guys here are in B2B? How many are B2C? All right, so most B2B. Have you ever felt that your marketing team can't truly tell you how you're getting all your customers? Yes? No? Or do you guys have a good feeling on where every single customer is coming from? And the reason you don't is because they're touching you in many different touch points. They may see you on LinkedIn or Facebook or Instagram, and then they interact with your website, and then sign up for a newsletter, and then go to your website and see you at an event, and then go back and Google and then purchase, and they clicked on an ad, and then they're like, oh, cool, came from a Google ad. Did it really come from a Google ad, right? It's delivering the right offer at the right time on all the channels is what's really driving conversions. But AI can help you with that, because AI can look at things like churn prediction. What's causing people to churn? And before they churn, show them the right message at the right time to get them to stick around, or even notify you that you need to reach out to them. It can look at LTV modeling, help you with better upselling and downselling and cross-selling, or even journey automation, so that way you can get more repeat purchases. And when you look at the funnel, there's different conversion points from different channels. I had someone came up earlier to me and being like, what do you think is going to happen with AI taking traffic away from websites? Do you even need to do SEO anymore? Do you need to optimize for all these channels? we're definitely seeing traffic go down. But what no one's really talking about is conversions are going up. Look at the conversion rate by channel. How crazy is it that we're seeing when you get roughly 10 visitors from AI, 1 is buying? You know how high of a conversion rate that is? That's ridiculous. I'm not talking about for products that are $2. I'm talking about in many cases products that are 10, 20, 50, 100 grand, 200 grand. The conversion rates are higher than we've ever seen. I had a corporation reach out to me the other day. They do over 100 billion in revenue. 100 billion in revenue with a B. That's a lot of money. The CMO of this organization was tired of working with the holding company. You know, like the holding companies like WPP, Dentsu, Publicis, you guys get the point. The big ad agencies. And he asked ChatGPT, what agency should I hire in Latin America for performance marketing or digital marketing? We were one of the ones he recommended. So he reached out to his, the person who was under him that managed that region for him. This is a global CMO who did this. So he reached out to them. They're like, hey, go reach out to this company called NP Digital. Based on my ChatGPT questions, they do everything we really need. So then they had us and 3 other people pitch. We're finalists now. I don't know if we'll get the contract. But the contract would be, call it $300,000 to $360,000 a year for a test run in a few of their really, really tiny countries that don't drive that much revenue from, right? It's relative when I say that much revenue. That much revenue is probably more revenue than all of us do combined in just for those small regions that they're quote unquote not popular for. When I say this company generates over 100 billion, well over 100 billion, they're quite large. All because of ChatGPT. And the amount of examples that we've gotten for customers because of ChatGPT is ridiculous. Because before, what would happen is you get a lead, your salespeople would spend a lot of time educating, and now they're not spending as much time educating because they've done a lot of the research on these platforms. But AI traffic, SMS, email, paid search, they all convert extremely well. And what's happening is intent is no longer linear, kind of like what I talked about with the conversion funnel. Discovery happens everywhere, and it happens all at once. That's really what you're seeing. Now, to understand liquid intent, people assume intent is solid and fragmented, but modern times have shown that intent is liquid. And you can often trigger multiple intents at once, from transactional, informational, navigational, and even commercial. And I'll show you an example of this. So let's say you're watching a TikTok video. A TikTok video, and it could be a YouTube video or Instagram video, doesn't matter if it's B2C or B2B. It can have multiple intents in one 60-second clip. From what is that to where can I get it? I need it now. And is there a better version or a better alternative? And you can answer all these things in one video. And you can do it in 7 seconds. You can do it in 60 seconds, which is a more realistic pitch. But intent is really liquid. And my prediction is 70+% of purchases will begin without a conscious search. Where people aren't searching for something, they're really just browsing, and they find it through more so discovery. Did you know discovery transactions, like product discovery, is supposed to be a $7 trillion market by 2030? $7 trillion a year will be spent because of discovery. How many of you guys have bought something because you saw it on Instagram? Raise your hand. Look around the room. That's just Instagram. Now imagine ChatGPT, TikTok. How many of you guys have bought something because of ChatGPT? Yeah, right? So maybe around 10, 15%. But that'll change because they have the Stripe integration, Shopify integration. But we're seeing this for both B2B and B2C. And we're seeing it work really well for enterprise as well. And when you look at where intent lives, it's not multi-channel. It's a little bit omni-channel. But when you think about AI, AI allows you to show your customers one message, have one data source because you can pull it all in together, and you can be super efficient and help them show the same personalized message no matter where they are. That's hard to do without AI because it's just too much data points that you're dissecting all at once. And when you look at the discovery framework and how many companies are leveraging things like search everywhere optimization, because people are searching everywhere on the internet. There's over 50 billion searches a day that happen on the internet. Google commands around 27% of them. Google does around 13.7-ish billion searches a day. Did you know Instagram gets 6.5 billion searches a day? Sure, a lot of people are asking about their friend, or finding friends, but they're still looking at products. Did you know Instagram's a great source for B2B? I publish content. How many of you guys have seen my content on social media, like Instagram or LinkedIn or any of those places? Great, a lot of new people. We get a lot of our customers from me posting on Instagram. People would think it's just a B2C channel. No joke. We get a lot of leads from Instagram. When I do a webinar, sometimes I'll post a video about my upcoming webinar, or I'll showcase the webinar through a live stream on Instagram. Instagram will account for, on any given time, 7 to 10% of our webinar registrations. Now you add in Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, right? Facebook, TikTok. You're now talking about over 30% of our registrants are coming from these social channels. But when we look at most corporations, they're not optimizing for every platform when they do a search. If someone's looking for a tax solution and you're into it, you would want to make sure you're showing up on Instagram. But only 14% of large corporations, from what we've seen, are actually leveraging search on multi-channels. And it gets much worse for small and medium businesses. You got to leverage all the channels. Discovery is really everywhere, and you need to optimize for all these channels. And even AI assistants, they're affecting discovery because you can ask these AI assistants or LLMs questions, and it'll help you find the solution. Just like how that $100+ billion revenue company was talking to an AI assistant, and it guided them to us, right? And when you look at traditional search, you got to go beyond what people are just thinking about from, hey, someone does an organic search, and then they click on over to my website. Look at the click rates and how they decrease from the AI overviews. That's not necessarily a bad thing. People are doing research, and what we're finding is then when they're coming over to your website, they're converting. The conversion rates are going up at a rapid pace, higher than we've ever seen before. Because they're doing the research on the platform versus clicking on 10 different links and doing research and wasting a lot of your people's time. Now, when you think about the new metrics with marketing, you got to start thinking about things like context. You've got to think about things like velocity. You got to think about, recency. These are all things that marketers must capture in this new intent world. If you're not capturing it, you're not going to do as well. Here, I'll go back for you so you can finish the picture. Yeah, you're welcome. And when you think about intent, as I mentioned, how you want to design for this liquid intent, there's a lot of different platforms that you can end up going after. And some of these platforms are LLM. When you look at how often they're citing websites with structured data versus unstructured data, they're looking at websites and citing ones that are using structured data more. It doesn't matter if it's ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, or Gemini. They're all looking for structured data. You need to make sure that your content on your website is structured. As I like telling people, write content for humans, package it up for AI. That's a new world that we're in. And structured data helps you with that. All right? And if you think about the different use cases with liquid intent, on Google it's running shoes. On TikTok, it's that viral sneaker. And on ChatGPT, it's which shoes will help prevent an injury. This is all how people are consuming content. And when you think about discovery, most popular platforms for discovery are your Instagrams, your TikToks, your YouTubes, and Facebooks. But when you look at the LTV, YouTube and Facebook provide the higher LTV. The audience is older. I go to so many events and people tell me Facebook's not that sexy. They don't use it as much. but Meta still generates a crap load of revenue from Facebook. Because people like my parents are on Facebook and they spend an arm and a leg. Because they bought their homes back in the day when they cost $100 grand. Sadly, those days are gone. I think my parents bought their home in Orange County, which is next to Los Angeles, so it's an expensive area, for $200,000 when I was a baby, right? In today's world, they're millionaires just because of their home and all their neighbors are. But that's the way the world works. These people have money. And back in the day, they took their pension funds or their pension, whatever they got from their job, and they stayed at the same job forever. And they bought stocks like Apple and Facebook and all this, and they don't know what to do with the money, and they still drive the same car that they had 15 years ago, right? They're using platforms like Facebook, and they're using platforms like YouTube all day long. The person on Instagram's talking about the new car that just came out when they just bought a car 2 years ago. Hence, they don't have as much money. So how do you future-proof your stack so that way you can do well in this new world? Well, most stacks fall short because most stacks were built for scalability, right? And that's fine, and that worked in the old world, but in the new world, you have to build and have your stack that works for adaptability, not scalability. Sure, scalability is still important, but adaptability is even more important. So let's talk about the core stack. The modern stack is a CDP plus automation plus conversational and generative AI. You combine those three things, you're going to be better off. That's really what's needed, and I'll break them down, all right? So when you think about CDPs in action, you all need, and your customers need, their own data. If they have their own data, their own first-party data, and they're collecting as much of it, and it's organized in one place, they can understand a customer much better and then make better informed decisions. Without this, you're going to struggle, and you're going to be beholden to whoever else has data, and it's going to cost you an arm and a leg. And this is why you just need to control your own data, because you can personalize. Without having a CDP, it makes it much harder to personalize, okay? And it makes it harder to trigger stuff based on what you're seeing. Then you want to automate your workflows, right? And you can see here, there's marketing automation. You can end up triggering different events based on what's happening with different people. And companies are using marketing automation to nurture prospects. They're seeing a 451% increase in qualified leads. But it's not just about using marketing automation, it's about using it in the right way. And the only right way to do it is if you're CDP, or if you're using a CDP and it's guiding you with everything that people are doing or not doing. And then you want to put conversational AI in practice to help guide them, to help bridge what the user really needs with what actions they've taken. And a lot of times they don't know what they're looking for, and you got to guide them. And if you use it properly, you can reduce support costs, boost conversions, and reduce sales time and the time it takes for someone to even make a decision. Look, the integration blueprint isn't that complex. And the funny thing is when you're thinking about a lot of these workflows and leveraging AI, you guys familiar with like make.com, NAN, and using MCPs? Most people, the reason why they're not seeing an ROI from their usage of AI, and I have another chart that breaks this down, is they're not using a lot of these tools. They're not connecting all these tools and having them talk together. And MCPs is a great way to start with that, right? MCPs is like an API for AI. Just think of it that way. And I'll show you a chart on that in a bit. And you may be thinking, should I buy or build when it comes to some of these things? There's not always a right or wrong answer. We look at buying is great if you're just looking to get something out there, but you're more locked in. Building is if you want full control and future flexibility. I'm a big believer of a combo of both, because sometimes you have to build for certain aspects, and for some things, you shouldn't reinvent the wheel. But this is the chart I was talking about with the MCPs. Think of this again. Everyone here familiar with MCPs? Raise your hand if you're not. That's probably an easier one. Okay, so MCPs are like an API so that way you can have some of these AI platforms help you with certain things. They're connecting different products together. When you look at the ROI that people are getting from AI, the ones that are using MCPs, 61% of them are seeing a ROI. The ones not using it, right, are seeing only a 2% in ROI, and they're seeing a 98% of not using it. Hence, people should use them. And when you think about your stack, there's some key points. Don't just collect data, activate it, and workflows must flex and adapt to the journey because people have liquid intent. And conversational AI is now part of your execution engine. It can help you get people across the finish line. Now let's talk about optimizing with AI. So there's a lot of different levers, like lead scoring, and I'll show you a really cool chart on this, content recommendations, or even budget allocation. And there's different ways that you can optimize based on using AI. But when you think about lead scoring, we ran a test internally of having AI lead score versus having a human, and look at the results. AI more accurately scored leads 83% of the time versus a human of 68%. What we do is we take the 83% and we're like, all right, send these to humans, or the ones that were scored accurately. It's not always 83% of the leads, but the ones that they scored accurately saying they're good, we send those to our sales reps. The ones they say they're bad, whether that's 20%, 50%, 60% of our leads, whatever those are, we then send those to a human to review, and then we'll find some gold sometimes in those leads. And it's much quicker because they know they're junk, but they look for the gold like misinformation. Because the problem with AI is it'll be like, oh, this person barely has any employees and barely any revenues. And it's just like, no, that company is a division of Berkshire Hathaway. You would just have to dig a little bit deeper. So the employees say they work for a larger organization in Berkshire Hathaway where this is just a division. But this division is probably responsible for $1 billion in revenue a year, right? So you may not, AI doesn't always catch those things, and so, sometimes humans do. I say sometimes because humans aren't perfect either. And when you think about dynamic content recommendations, personalization by AI drives roughly a 5 to 15% lift. On average is what we see. Structured content makes AI easier to recommend your product or service, right? And you can also reduce CPAs with AI because when you're optimizing for a user and personalizing more, having them help with your creatives, we're seeing a huge lift in, quote unquote ROI and a decrease in CPA. We did it with one of our clients, Tektronix. We integrated their offline CRM data with a lot of their campaigns and ads, and we had AI tests, 200 plus variations in a week, and we were able to decrease their CPA, cost of per customer, by roughly 34%. And when you think about modal impact, before AI, a lot of manual rules. Now it's continual learning. And before, decisions lag behind customer behavior. Now, predictive bidding adapts instantly. So then that way you can just get people ready to go and adjust and get them going and, generate more sales. And there was inconsistency in spend efficiency. Now you're seeing spend flows towards what converts. You're seeing a lot less wastage. The last stat I looked up, and depending on the source, there's roughly $60 to $100 billion in wasted digital ad spend per year. Just think about that for a minute. It's roughly 20% of the online digital spend if you just look at Google and Facebook. It's kind of crazy. And you can also manage risks in AI models, and you need to. Because when we talk to enterprises versus SMBs, they see a lot of different risks, from accuracy to biasness to compliance. The amount of enterprise corporations that have us put in our contract now that we're not allowed to use AI on their work for certain things and we have to disclose when we're using AI. This is not because they're like, hey, we want you to pass the savings on to us or we're afraid you're going to make more money. It has nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with they're worried about getting sued. So we're seeing larger corporations actually put that in there as well. A lot of them are worried about plagiarism. Different countries, different laws as well. And when we're looking at when marketing teams are getting value out of AI, marketing teams they're seeing some efficiency, but they're not seeing an increase in revenue due to AI. They're seeing some cost savings, but more are actually seeing cost increases. What organizations are really seeing from AI is they're seeing people do cool stuff, but they don't know how these cool stuff really impacts their KPIs, their main revenues. And it comes down to what are your KPIs and what's really driving growth within your organization. If AI helps you focus on those KPIs, you're much more likely to see better results from it. And that's the biggest issue. If you can't get your KPIs right, you don't know what to focus your AI efforts on. So I'll give you a few examples, and I'll be quick with this. There's a company called RefiJet. We focus on making sure they show up on all these LLMs because people are doing research, right? That helped them generate more traffic and more revenue. With UTI, Google made a change where when you look at the local pack, they were focusing on the local pack more versus people's web pages. We use AI to help create localized landing pages for each and every city that they had campuses around to start feeding the engines more localized results for UTI. And what did it do? 411% increase in year-over-year organic search conversions, or search sessions, right? That's an example of using AI to drive more revenue. And there was another one, Club Med. We use Google's technology, right? And it helped them get 29% increase in booking conversions. And you need to know when to use the technology, when not to. Sometimes we see people using it in the wrong way or not needing it, and they turn it on and it hurts. Sometimes using it helps. But you need to know how to use AI to help you. And the easiest way to think about that is think about your main KPIs first, and then look at the technology that can help you achieve those goals. Instead of just being like, oh, here's some cool stuff AI can do, let's implement that. Well, is that useful for the KPIs that we're going for, right? When we think about everything that's happening and all the changes that are happening, one thing that is very clear, structured content creates signals for these AI models. If you just want to do better in this AI world and you're going to take one thing away with your own website, make sure you have structured content. When you're getting press, other people comparing you guys to other solutions out there, other products, have those comparisons in structured data, table formats. This all helps AI perform better and recommend your business more. So the playbook, step by step, this is really 5 steps. Audit your data and your tools, define clear goals, connect the CDP and automation, add conversational AI where needed, pilot one model, and then expand from there. So step 1, auditing your data, right? You want to eliminate silos. You want to make sure your data is accurate. I always say this because I know it sounds like it's basic, but in most organizations we see, the data is actually very inaccurate. Step 2, define your clear goals. You don't need to have 20 goals. Pick 1 or 2. You can add more goals later on, but pick 1 or 2. If you have too many, it's just going to make things too complex. Step 3, connect your CDP and automation so that way you can have a focus on helping you with your one goal that you chose. Step 4, add generative and conversational AI where it's needed, right? So this can help you achieve those goals because AI can actually help you do quite a bit. But if it doesn't help you with those goals and it's cool, put it on the sideline. You can get to it later. And step 5, pilot it in one area, implement it after 30, 60 days, seeing results. Then you can expand it into other areas. If you're not seeing tons of results and your main goals increase, your main KPI increase, then what you should do is try something else. Because if you tried it and you think it's cool and you implement it everywhere but it didn't move the needle, you're just wasting time. And that's what people are getting wrong. And when you think at the end-to-end flow at a glance, this is pretty much, what I broke down. And if you do this, you can start using AI in a more structured way that'll help you accomplish your goals versus just using AI because it looks cool, which is really where we're seeing a lot of organizations buy down because it looks cool and we're seeing everyone else use it, so we need to use it too. There needs to be a reason. Now, when you think about quick wins versus long-term plays, it's all about what can you do this quarter and get those done? What is more long-term? And think about how you need to spend your time. I like spending 20% of our time on the short run quick wins and 80% of the time on the long-term wins. And that's a great way to structure your marketing to help you grow faster in the long run. Right? And you can think about, what do I need to do next week, next quarter? What's the best time to prepare? How can I adapt really fast for numbers for the next quarter so my boss is going to be happy? Next week, you can do things like pick one workflow and test. Align with your team on the KPIs. Next quarter could be scale those pilots that were successful into other divisions, other areas, or layer in conversational AI because that's more work, or build a reporting framework because, again, that's more work. And when you think about the future outlook, look, AI is going to continue to reshape marketing. It's here to stay. Everyone has to adapt it. And the issue isn't the adaptation. The issue is they're adapting it in the wrong way by focusing on things that aren't impacting their main KPIs. So you're just finding corporations spending more money without seeing the results. Now it's your turn. You've learned a lot about things like liquid intent. You learned about the stack. You learned about how you should be thinking about KPIs. Now, you just need to take one thing and implement. Seriously, just one thing. You don't have to fix everything at once, just one at a time. And staying open to change is a key. We were talking to people the other day on how they feel about AI shaking up the marketing career. And most people were excited, but still a large chunk were excited and nervous, and some were really nervous. Embrace it. The people who embrace it are actually going to do better. McKinsey had a stat out there a little bit ago. AI is actually going to cost a lot of jobs in marketing, but it's also going to cause more new jobs in marketing, and the amount of new jobs outweighs the job losses from AI, at least in the marketing space. And what's next? Generative search assistants, they're going to reshape discovery. You're going to start seeing AI personalization being the expectation instead of, only certain people are doing it. And you're going to see measurement shifting from clicks, which is what a lot of people measure, to influence and brand visibility. That's going to be really important. How often is your brand mentioned on these platforms? What's the sentiment versus you and the competition? Because that's what's going to really help you outshine and generate more revenue. And even AI agents, you got to start adapting them. People are already starting to love them in the marketing space. They're not that amazing yet, just being very transparent. They don't really do everything for you automatically, but they can help you with the mundane, boring, cookie cutter task and just make things more efficient. So embrace them so that way you can spend more time on the higher level stuff. I know a lot of you took screenshots. I should have just had this at the first slide so you guys didn't have to. But yeah, I can also answer any questions that you guys have as well. I left, I think, like 7-ish minutes on purpose just for questions. And you can ask me anything. It could be related to the presentation or anything, and I will answer it, or at least try my best. Go for it.
Did you ever talk to your kids about the thousands of dollars they spent on Amazon?
Oh, yeah.
How'd that go?
It was actually tough. And here's the reason. So I have a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old. They're a little bit younger at the time. I was always a book nerd as a kid. And my wife is as well. Like, our version of fun is walking or reading. So like, even to our kids, like, we'll read books about space, or like, if you ask my son what he's looking forward to as an adult, he was like, as an adult, I'll have 206 bones in my body. So I'm looking forward to that. He's 4, right? So, and they go to a school in Los Angeles just for them, where there's a lot of kids that are like that, right? So when I was telling my kids that you spent a lot, and I'm like, this is expensive. And my kids right away were like, Daddy, we don't need these toys and stuff if you're around more. And my kid's like, let's go return all the toys if you're willing to stay home more, right? And I don't know how to get mad at that. And then they're like, let's go return them. And I'm like, well, you can't actually return toys that you already opened up and played with. And then my kids have money in a piggy bank, not much. Like they save, but they've saved probably like $300-400, and they're giving me back their money. But like, I kind of get mad at them because they're like, you travel all the time. And then when I tell them like, I work hard for you so you guys can have a better future, they're like, we don't need more stuff. We need our daddy. So, now I'm trying to cut back on traveling. I know I just said I'm traveling from here, then to Sydney and Dallas, so it's not working as well. But I'm home at this point roughly 40% of the year, and my goal over the next few years is to get it to 55 to 60%.
You talked about how you got discovered by that one company, CMO, doing search in ChatGPT. Did you do anything special to set yourself up to be found through that channel?
So there's a few things. One, we participated in Reddit as a community, responding and being transparent with our responses and not being self-promotional. Two, we'll guest post on other websites. There's a lot of other websites that'll take guest posters. I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about people on my staff, so they're not as well known or known at all. And they'll talk about case studies and things that we've helped companies with, and they'll get very specific, like with local results or global campaigns. Because when someone researches on these LLMs, they're typing in very specific use cases on what they're looking for. So when you think about all your ideal customers and all the use cases they come from, and you create articles all around the web on how you're solving for those use cases, one article per use case, you can even publish them on your own website and have case studies and data to back them up, and you put it in a table result, like did this, here were the results after, where they can scrape and easily analyze that data, they're much more likely to recommend you. And then the next one was digital PR. So going out there and getting press, a lot of people mentioning your brand, positive sentiment, even the review sites, like you're familiar with like the Trustpilots, the G2s, etc., having good reviews everywhere on the web, but more thorough reviews, not like 5 stars, great company to work for. That actually doesn't do much for you. It needs to be detailed reviews. Like if you had a customer that said, I'm really satisfied because of X, Y, and Z, cool, leave that review and be very specific on what you're looking for before you chose us, why you chose us, and the results you got for that exact use case. Because they're pulling very detailed questions that people are asking very detailed questions, and they're pulling very detailed pieces of text from all around the web to answer those specific questions.
Thank you.
Huge driver in revenue. It's changed our business a lot.
You talked about automation. Do you have any recommendations or best practices you've seen with customers you work with in engaging current accounts or accounts that are potentially churn risk using automation to do so?
Yeah, so it's a little bit different. Let's say, what price points do you guys sell the product for?
Anywhere from 40,000 to 300,000.
Perfect. Okay. So what we like doing is we input all the customers who've churned, and we input into the whatever AI system you're using, what did they do, and what caused them to churn, and then we also input all the data from the customers that have been there the longest, and we try to spot patterns on the differences in use cases, like the engagement. What are they doing with the technology, or the app, or the services? How engaged are they? How many emails are they responding to, et cetera? You get the point, right? You're finding patterns. We then have it flag all the people who are the most likely to churn. It could be in the first 90 days, 60 days, because even if you have an annual contract, they may have had a really terrible experience in the first 2-3 months, and you're screwed for the rest of the time, and then they won't renew. We try to spot the patterns, and then we'll reach out with a human for the high ticket price points and actually encourage them to do the things that we need them to do that are similar to the users that are satisfied. So sometimes you're getting on the phone and be like, you're not doing these 3 things, and this is what's not causing you to grow, or it's hurting your business. Be like, I want to break this down over the phone. When are you free to talk? And sometimes they don't respond. And you're like, hey, I'm sending you a care package, okay? And this care package is like some cookies and coffee and biscuits and tea. And I would love to, and we found that to work really well. And they respond, because sometimes someone higher up signed the contract, but you're dealing with people lower level and they don't have the time. And then when you give them biscuits and tea, you can buy it from Amazon. It's like $20, send it to them. they're more likely to actually get on the call, and you break down how you can do those things, and they're so much more receptive of being onboarded correctly. $20 goes a long way to save a $40,000 to $100,000 account. Seriously, we do the biscuit and tea quite often. Because the person who signed the contract isn't the person who's implementing and using it. And if the person using it and implementing doesn't actually do anything, then the person who wrote the check is just like, well, my team doesn't want to use it. I don't want to keep spending $100,000 a year. That's really what happens. I'm assuming you're experiencing this based on your nodding. Try the biscuit and teas. It'll save you a lot. Would you agree that what you did in SEO 10 years ago is not what you did 5 years ago? It's adapted over time. You can't build crappy links. You can't write crappy.
Yeah. You can't really game the system like you used to be able to.
Correct. Okay. So SEO 3 years ago was like, I need to build more links. I need to write content for humans. You agree with this, right? Really thorough, 5,000 word articles, etc. Now, if you write a 5,000 word article, AI wants to, whether it's Google AI Overviews or AI mode or ChatGPT, they want to give a user the answer as quick as possible. Doesn't mean you don't need a 5,000 word article. You're just adapting on how you're creating the content, because you may do FAQ schema at the bottom or do key points at the top where you're answering the main questions that you're seeing people come to that page for right at the top in bullet format, so that the way AI can pull it. And instead of link building, instead of trying to convince everyone to link to you, you want them to mention your business and not just mention your name and link, but the context has to be more thorough and it has to be done in a more positive sentiment, because AI can understand if it's more positive on when someone types in a question. Let's say if you're offering, what does Flywheel do?
We provide digital services. We're a digital agency.
Okay, so if you're a digital agency, if someone was asking about a specific digital service and you were mentioned in that press release and how you solved it and the results, that's not a link. While traditional SEO, they'll be like, not as helpful, but it is more helpful in today's world. What I'm getting at is, it is SEO. SEO continually evolves. And even though I agree with you where it's like the same thing, or it's the same concept of SEO, it's just evolving over time like it has been over the last 20 years, the customers aren't calling it SEO. So if you call it something that the customers don't want to call it, it doesn't matter. You've already lost them. So you got to adapt with them and call it AI SEO or GE or whatever they want to, whether you like it or not.
EIEIO.
Exactly.